Think about the last time a moment of calm, perhaps in the morning, feeling the warmth of the sun on your face, and then something happened. An aggressive email, a criticism, someone, a disturbing piece of news. And in an instant, like in the dead of night, you're stolen, and in its place were anxiety, anger, sadness, and you asked yourself in despair, how can something so small, so external, have so much power to destroy my inner world? Who is in control anyway? If this experience is familiar to you, you know the pain of psychic permeability. It is the pain of living with skin for it is feeling like an emotional sponge, absorbing the toxicity, stress, and drama of the environment and the people without any filter. And this condition leaves you in a state of chronic exhaustion, of fragility, feeling that your well-being is not your possession, but a hostage to external circumstances. And it is to the soul that feels constantly invaded that Carl Jung's philosophy offers a new promise. The title of this video seems to promise invulnerability, but the real goal is not to become a stone that feels nothing. That would be death to the soul. The goal is to become the mountain. The goal is to develop sovereign resilience, forge an inner so present that although you still feel the wind and the rain, nothing and no one will have the power to tear you. On this journey, you stop being the victim of the ingredient presents you. You become the alchemist. You understand that your job is not to try to control all the events and all the people in the world, an impossible task that only generates frustration. Your true work, your great work, is to strengthen your containment valve, which is your own consciousness, so that it can contain any substance without breaking. The promise of this profound 40-minute journey is not to teach you how to build a wall that isolates you from life. It is to hand you the keys to your own inner fortitude. We will reveal the 5 Jungian, the 5 stages of alchemical to forge this unshakable resilience so that you can fully participate in the dance of life with all its pains and joy without ever losing yourself. What if true freedom is not the absence of storms on the ocean of life, but the absolute certainty that your boat has become unsinkable? What if you could learn to sail any sea because your fortitude is not in the harbor but within you? The first secret to becoming unshakable is, paradoxically, having the courage to diagnose your own fragility. And the pain that guides us here is that of chronic reactivity. It is the exhaustion of a nervous system that never rests. It is the burden of taking everything personal, of interpreting a neutral comment as a veiled criticism, or silence as a sign of rejection. It is the inability to disconnect from a difficult conversation or a stressful event, allowing them to replay in your mind for hours or days, draining your energy and robbing you of your peace. It is, in essence, the pain of feeling that your emotional integrity is broken with disconcerting ease. What Jung's psychology teaches us is that this state of reactivity occurs in an undifferentiated psyche. What does this mean? It means that in your current state, there is no clear and strong boundary between your observing I, your conscious ego, and the raw emotion that is triggered by events. When the chemistry of anger, fear, or sadness is poured into you, it is not contained. It instantly merges with your entire system, and you become the emotion itself. And why does this happen? Because our complexes, old, unresolved wounds that we all carry, function like structural cracks in our psyche. They are points of weakness through which our energy leaks and the negativity of the world enters without asking permission. And here is the revelation that can transform your shame to a purpose. Your sensitivity is not your weakness. It is your raw material. The problem is not that you feel too much. The problem is that your psychic vessel, your structure of consciousness, has not yet been strengthened enough to contain the immense intensity of your own magnificent capacity to feel. A person who feels little does not need a strong vessel. Your great sensitivity is, in fact, a call from your soul for great work. It is a sign that you were designed to contain an ocean, and that now you need to build a continent to match that vast. In order for you to begin to identify where your deepest cracks are, the invitation is to do a crack mapping. Think of a recent event in which you felt broken emotionally, a trigger that destabilized you for hours or days. Now, instead of focusing on the external event or the other person, turn your attention inward and ask yourself with complete honesty, what was the painful belief about myself that this situation activated? Maybe it was the belief, I am a failure. or nobody cares about, or I am invisible, not good enough. This core belief, which usually begins with an I am, is the exact location of the deepest fissure in your psyche. Think of your psyche as a beautiful, complex clay pot, which has been shaped with immense potential for beauty and usefulness. But if this raw clay pot is never placed in the fire, in the kiln of consciousness and inner work, it will remain porous and fragile. It will not be able to retain any precious liquid that life pours into it. It will dissolve at the first heavy rain. The journey we are proposing in this video, the path to becoming unshakable, is precisely the process of courageously, patiently, and intentionally taking this clay of yours into the alchemical kiln so that it can be fired, glazed, and transformed into a strong, whole piece of pottery capable of containing the nectar and even the poison of life without breaking. After diagnosing the fragility of our inner vessel, the next step is to confront our relationship with the world, and the pain that arises here is that of impotence, the pain that arises from the victim narrative that our ego loves to tell. It is the story that begins with the words, "He made me feel this. That situation ruined my... If they were different, I would be at peace." It is the feeling that our peace is a fragile asset that is constantly in the hands of external forces, a feeling that, although it absolves us of responsibility, condemns us to a life of zero personal power. What is operating here, at a deep level, is a defense mechanism that Jungian psychology calls projection causality. We unconsciously project onto other people and events the responsibility for our own internal reaction. And why do we do this? Because it is psychologically much easier, much less painful in the short term, to blame an external agent than to take on the difficult and courageous task of looking at our own cracks, our own complexes, and our own lack of psychic integrity. We blame the ingredient so as not to have to admit the fragility of our own bottle, and here is the breaking of expectations that represents the greatest reclaiming power that a human being can perform. No one can make you feel anything at all. People and events are just the chemical ingredients that life presents to you. The explosive reaction, the corrosion, the dissolution that follows happens because of the instability of your own vessel. When you understand this at a cellular level, you stop engaging in the impossible and maddening task of trying to control the world, of trying to change all the ingredients so that they don't affect you, and you begin to dedicate yourself to the only task possible and that really matters, that of strengthening the integrity of your own consciousness. To begin practicing this reclaiming of power, we invite you to adopt the alchemist's mantra. The next time you are confronted with an emotional trigger, an ingredient that is upsetting you, instead of thinking, "This is irritating me," train your mind to consciously shift your language to something like, "The energy of this ingredient has activated an irritating reaction within my interest. Let me observe what is happening inside." This simple shift in language instantly moves you from the role of victim to the role of scientist of your own. Think of a master chef, amateur. Both are given exactly the same ingredients from life, fresh and perfect, sometimes bitter and challenging. The amateur, with his thin, easily burnt pans, his lack of technique, is likely to ruin the dish and ultimately blame the quality of the food. The master chef, on the other hand, with his cast iron cauldrons that distribute heat evenly, with his wisdom about time and temperature, and with his refined technique, transforms the same ingredients into a masterpiece of flavor and beauty. The fundamental difference is not in the ingredients that life has given them. It is in the quality, strength, and wisdom of the master and his tools. Your job is to become the master chef of your own inner laboratory. Once you have taken back responsibility for your own peace, you are faced with the raw material of your transformation, your own intense emotion. And the anguish that arises here, what keeps us reactive, is not knowing what to do with it. When the wave of anger, anxiety, or sadness arises, our instinct, conditioned by a culture of constant action, is to do something immediately, fix it, analyze it, express it explosively, or most commonly, suppress it, and run away from it. And this need to do something is what prevents true alchemy from happening. In the alchemical tradition, the first and most crucial step of the entire great work is called calcinatio. It is the process of heating the prima materia, the base substance, to burn off its impurities and reduce it to its purest essence. In psychological, the fire that accomplishes this purification is your focused awareness. It is the act of applying your full, pure, non-judgmental attention to your raw emotional experience. It is the warmth of your presence that begins to strengthen your inner vessel, and the revelation that frees you from the paralysis of not knowing what to do. Your first and most important task when faced with a difficult emotion is not to do anything at all. It is simply to observe. It is not to analyze where it came from. It is not to justify a story. It is not to suppress it with distractions, and it is not to express it reactively. It is simply the courageous act of being with the raw energy of the emotion in your body, with the calm curiosity. This fire of pure, non-interfering observation is what begins to cook the raw energy of the complex, to separate the emotion from the story your mind tells about, and to purify destructive. To begin cultivating this inner fire, the invitation is to use the silent witness technique. The next time a strong emotion arises, instead of being hijacked by it, try this process. First, stop. Take a physical break. Stop what you're doing. Second, close your eyes. Third, locate the energy of the emotion in your body. Where is it? Is it a tightness in your chest, a warmth in your stomach, a vibration in your hands? Describe the sensation to yourself like a scientist. Is it hot or cold, pulsing or steady? And fourth, for 3 minutes, simply witness the sensation. Observe it as if you were the sky observing a cloud. Don't try to make it go away. Just give it the space to exist. And observe with curiosity how energy, when observed without resistance, invariably changes, moves, and eventually dissipates on its own. Think of your reactive emotion, your complex, as a cold, rigid piece of iron full of impurity. You cannot shape it. You cannot turn it into a useful sword while it is cold. The first step of every master is to take it to the furnace. Your observing consciousness, your capacity to witness without judgment, is that furnace. The furnace does not judge the iron. It does not criticize. It simply heats it with a steady and powerful flame, burning away its impurities and making it malleable, red, and alive, preparing it for the great transformation that will come next in the shop tempering. Once you have learned to heat the raw material of your emotion, fire of consciousness, you are faced with a new challenge, a new pain, that of polarization. It is the tendency that we all have to oscillate between two opposing extremes. Either we are totally consumed by emotion, drowning in the heat of anger or sadness, or to avoid this discomfort, we suppress it completely, becoming cold, disconnected, and excessively rational. It is the civil war of the psyche, the feeling that you must choose between being an erupting volcano or an iceberg. What the ancient arts of metallurgy and alchemy teach us is that the secret to forging the strongest steel in the world lies not in the heat alone, but in the process of tempering. It is the act of heating metal, extreme temperatures, and then subjecting it to a rapid and shocking cooling. It is this clash, this union of opposites of hot and cold, that reorganizes the molecular structure of the metal and gives it both strength and flexibility. Psychologically, the tempering of the vessel of your soul is your ability to learn to contain two opposing realities at the same time, the heat of your most intense emotion and the cold of your observant, detached consciousness. This is what Jung called the sacred conjunctio oppositorum, the union of opposites. And the breaking of expectations that defines true mastery of the soul is this: inner strength does not come from choosing one pole over the other. It does not come from being just feeling or just reason. Strength comes from becoming a psychic container large enough to contain both. It is the ability to feel overwhelming sadness in your chest and at the same time to be the serene witness who observes that sadness. It is feeling the fire of anger in your belly and simultaneously being the space of cool, calm awareness that contains. This ability to hold duality without breaking is what makes your vessel truly unbreakable. It is the birthplace of the transcendent function. To begin training this ability, you are invited to the anchor and wave exercise. The next time you feel a difficult emotion arising, the wave of heat, bring your attention to it in your body, as you learned in the previous chapter, and simultaneously bring your attention to a physical anchor, a point of cool, and stability. This could be the sensation of the weight of your feet firmly planted on the ground, or the sensation of cool air entering your nostril. Then practice keeping your awareness divided between the two. Feel the turbulence of the wave and at the same time the unshakable stability. You are actively training your stand the tension. Think of your soul as a blade being forged, the greatest. A sword that is merely heated in fire and hammered becomes soft and bends in the first battle. A sword that is merely cooled, made of cold iron, becomes brittle and shatters on the first impact against a shield. The legendary blade, the Excalibur of your soul, the one that is at once indestructible and perfectly balanced, is forged in the fire of passion and tempered in the cold water of wisdom, over and over again. Your soul becomes unbreakable when you learn to withstand, at the same time, the heat of your passions and the cold of your conscience. After all this work of forging and tempering, after you have learned to contain the heat of your emotion and the cold of your consciousness, one last fear, one last pain may present itself. It is the fear of returning to the world. It is the hesitation to engage in new challenges, new relationships, new experiences, because of the memory of how you used to break so easily. It is the suspicion that, despite all your new power, one experience too strong might still shatter your vessel. What happens when your psychic vessel has been truly forged and tempered, when your consciousness has become strong and containing, is that you discover that you have become, in yourself, the Philosopher's Stone. In the legend of the alchemist, the Philosopher's Stone was the mythical substance, the elixir of life, which had the miraculous power to transform any base metal, such as lead, into pure gold. In Jungian terms, the individuated self, the psyche that has become whole and has learned to contain opposites, acquires on a psychological and spiritual level this same transmuting and the supreme revelation, the one that finally fulfills the promise of our meeting, is this: when your psychic vessel is forged, nothing and no one can affect you negatively anymore. And why? Because any experience, no matter how low, painful, or poisonous it may be, any lead that life presents you is automatically processed and transformed into gold within you. A criticism that once broke you is now transformed into the wisdom of self-knowledge. A failure that once humiliated you is now transformed into the strength of resilience. A loss that once left you in pieces is now transformed into the depth of compassion. You stop fearing the ingredients of life because you now trust in your ability to transmute them. And this mastery changes the fundamental question you ask of life in your daily life. When faced with a challenge, a difficulty, instead of asking from the place of the victim, "Why is this happening to me?" you naturally begin to ask from the place of the alchemist. What is the gold that is hidden in this? What wisdom is painful experience to offer me? What has this darkness come to illuminate in me? You are no longer the frightened apprentice, afraid that the chemicals in your laboratory will explode and harm you. You have become the master alchemist at the center of your sacred laboratory, and now you receive each ingredient that life brings you, be it sweet or bitter, with a calm and serene curiosity, knowing that you have the knowledge, the technique, and the inner equipment, your unbreakable vessel, to transform anything into something of immense value. You are no longer affected by life. You became her creative partner. After you have learned the art of containing your emotions, one last pain may emerge from your journey of suffering. It is the pain of meaningless. It is the feeling that all the negative experiences you have lived, all the triggers, were just a waste of time and energy. It is the question that echoes, what was it all for? What was the purpose of so much suffering if, in the end, the only thing I learned was to endure it? And it is to this pain that alchemy offers us its highest and noblest promise. The ultimate goal of our inner work is not just to endure emotion or contain energy, it is to actively transmute it. The immense energy contained in an emotional trigger, the charge of an activated complex, once it is no longer wasted in an explosion of unconscious reactivity, becomes pure and extremely potent fuel, which is available to be used consciously. And the breaking of expectations here is that each trigger, each moment in which you are affected by the world, is an opportunity to harvest. Each time you manage to observe your reaction without being hijacked by it, you, in fact, harvest the energy of the complex. It is as if you were recapturing the energy that once leaked from you and bringing it back to your center, to your consciousness. And this recovered energy, this rescued libido, can and should be used for your creativity, for your healing, for your vitality, and for your conscious actions in the world. Each trigger becomes an opportunity to become stronger. To practice this transmutation, the invitation is for conscious redirection. After applying the silent witness technique, after riding the emotional wave and allowing it to subside, ask yourself, what is the wisdom here? What has this emotion taught me? Maybe anger has shown you a boundary that needs to be set. Maybe sadness has shown you what you truly value. Then use that clarity, that distilled wisdom, to take constructive, deliberate action. If the lesson was about boundaries, have the conversation you need to have. If it was about what you value, take a small step toward that. Use the energy of the trigger to fund your evolution. Think of your emotional reactivity as the venom of a snake. When you are bitten and react unconsciously, the venom enters your bloodstream and can kill you. Consciousness, alchemy, is the art of the shaman. The shaman, with his knowledge and courage, does not run away from the snake. He captures it, extracts its venom with extreme care and respect, and in his laboratory, he transforms this same deadly substance into the most powerful antidote, capable of healing not only himself, but also his tribe. His job is to become the shaman of his own soul, capable of transforming his most personal venom into his most potent medicine. We now come to the fifth and final secret, the golden key that locks your inner fortress. And it is born of the pain of a lifetime lived on the defensive. It is the exhaustion of spending your precious energy protecting yourself, arming yourself, anticipating attacks, worrying about your borders and what others might think or do. It is living in a permanent state of siege, where your main occupation is not living, but defending yourself from life. What Jung's wisdom teaches us here is that the focus of the soul's journey should not be to defend the borders of our kingdom. It should be to enrich and strengthen the capital. Instead of spending your energy building ever higher walls against the world, the real work is to use that same energy to cultivate an inner world so rich, so meaningful, and so beautiful that the outside world simply loses its power to disturb it. This is the heart of the individuation process, and the revelation that frees you from the need to defend yourself is this: when your inner center is strong, when your capital is rich in self-knowledge, creativity, and self-sufficiency, external threats lose their power over you. Why? Because they no longer find hooks or cracks to attach themselves. A criticism does not affect you because you already know your worth. Someone else's opinion does not destabilize you because you are anchored in your own. Your best defense is not a wall that isolates you. It is a gravitational center so powerful that nothing can pull you out of its orbit. To begin building this inner cathedral, the invitation is to practice the cultivation of the secret garden. Dedicate every day a sacred time to an activity that nourishes your soul and that has absolutely no productive purpose or external validation. It could be reading poetry. It could be listening to classical music with your eyes closed. It could be walking in silence in nature. It could be writing in a journal without the intention of showing it to anyone. This is not a luxury. It is your most essential work. It is the act of strengthening your capital, of enriching your inner world so that you need the outside world less. Think of your psyche as a country. You don't make a country truly safe and powerful by building giant walls around its borders. Such a country would be nothing more. You make a country strong, safe, and respected by creating a rich culture, a vibrant economy, inspiring art, and a united, happy, strong sense of identity. No external threat can truly shake a kingdom that is prosperous, cohesive, and deeply rooted in its own values. Your job is not to be the general of the border, but the architect of the capital. We have now come to the final manifestation of your inner work, and with it, one last subtle fear may present itself. It is the fear that by becoming this unshakable, centered person who is no longer affected by negativity, you will be seen by others as cold, distant, or even arrogant. It is the fear that your new inner strength will isolate you from human connections. What the physics of consciousness and human experience show us is exactly the opposite. A human being who is no longer reactive, who is anchored in his or herself and who inhabits a state of inner peace, emits a field of calm and energetic coherence that positively and silently affects the entire environment and all the people around him or her. Your peace is not a barrier. It is an invitation, and the final revelation, the great and unexpected gift of your journey, is this: people do not fear you. They respect you, and more than that, they feel safe in your presence. You effortlessly become a natural peacemaker because your energy field no longer fuels drama, reactivity, or conflict. Your calm invites calm. Your centered presence inspires others to find their own center, and you inspire deep trust, not because you are perfect, because you are. Your practice now becomes simply being. Instead of worrying about what to do to be respected or loved, your sole focus becomes maintaining your connection center, and then just watch. Notice how the quality of your interactions naturally changes. Notice how people instinctively begin to bring their best, most authentic selves to you because they feel safe doing so in your presence. And eventually, you become the ancient oak tree in the forest. The other animals not fear the oak tree because of its strength and immense solidity. Quite the opposite. They seek its shelter during the storm. They build their nests in your branches. Your unshakable strength does not push life away. It anchors it, protects it, and shelters it. You become a source of stability not only for yourself, but for all those fortunate enough to be part of your forest. We have journeyed together today from the pain of being a fragile leaf in the wind, through the construction of the glass walls of the ego, through the discovery of the indestructible center of the self, through the alchemy of our emotions, through the building of the inner cathedral, until we reach the sovereign peace of the oak. And the central truth that I hope will anchor you in your soul forever is this: real strength, true invulnerability, does not lie in the absence of feelings or the ability to be untouched by life. It lies in the presence of an inner center so vast and so strong that it can contain all feelings and all experiences without ever being lost or broken by. For the ultimate goal of human life, the great journey of individuation, is to bring us to this realization, to identify ourselves no longer with the passing dramas of our ego, but with the timeless vastness of ourself. A person who lives from this center is no longer a victim of the world. He is a conscious participant and co-creator of his own magnificent journey. The world outside will never cease to be the world. The storms will never cease to come. The waves will never cease to break. You cannot control the ocean, but you can and must, through this inner journey, discover that you are not the small, frightened wave on the surface being tossed. You are the entire ocean. The peace you seek is not in the promise of a cloudless sky. It is in the discovery that you are the self, the conscious, silent, vast space that contains all the clouds, never defined or diminished by any of